Hey everyone, I am excited to be on the story making show with Leah Weese. Weese is her last name. We just talked about this and I was gonna
No,
totally
you said
botch
it
it.
right.
Yay, okay. And Leah is the owner of Lele's Leaf and Vine. But she's also so much more. She's an artist and she's an encourager. Uh, you do so many things, Leah. It's hard to just throw it into one category. You're an entrepreneur. I think you're a brilliant marketer. So, I think there's a lot here. But thank you so much for being with me, Leah.
I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. Now, I know you love plants. You're at your shop, you're surrounded by plants, but that has to be the very first thing to ask. How did you get so into plants?
It happened really early in life. I spent a lot of time with my dad in the garden, and I spent a lot of time with my grandmother gardening as well. I volunteered with my grandmother for the American Cancer Society for years and years and years. They did a flower sale where flowers were donated to them, and they sold them and donated the money to the American Cancer Society. And I did that for probably 8 years with her, learning all kinds of plant names. And it kind of just evolved from there and finding what kind of plants that I liked. And about 8 years ago, I got one of my first succulents, and I actually have it tattooed on me.
Nice.
And I pretty much fell in love with it. It was almost like an obsession from that. And I pretty much learned whatever I could about plants and acquired as many plants as I could. And one day, I just got too many. And I was like, what am I going to do with all these plants? And I learned about so many different things, going and working for so many different businesses and working for so many different people, that I pretty much learned how to run a business and kind of filled together the pieces. And I'm still filling together the pieces of the puzzle, but yeah, it's kind of what it evolved from.
Now, it was just your passion for plants. It's been with you for years.
Yep.
It kept growing, but you have a background now. I know you were a bartender.
Mm-hmm.
What else have you done in the past?
I pretty much have worked for restaurants since I was 15 years old.
Okay.
I started as a hostess. I was a server. I was a bartender, and then I was a general manager of a restaurant locally in Stowe. And then when that became just too many hours, essentially, and too much work, I dropped back down to bartending and started my business. So I actually started my business 2 days before I lost my job to COVID.
Wow.
So when the world shut down to COVID, I literally started the LLC 2 days before that.
Wow, that's incredible. And that's now, okay, quite the transition.
Yeah.
I have to ask about that. You've been in the customer service industries for quite a while then. But
for 10 years now.
Yeah, but then going to It's All You.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little about that transition. I know you're still learning and growing, but back when you first made that leap, what was that like?
So I only just recently made that leap. I just recently acquired the building that we're in Cuyahoga Falls. So that happened in the first week of June. And I think I had a plan to work for other people for the whole summer. And hopefully at the end of the summer I was going to, but it became too hard very quickly. And I felt like I was sacrificing my business, and I didn't want to feel like that. So I think it was July I made that jump. And so July, August, September, we're in October. I've just going on 3 months, actually, this past weekend of the business being open since the grand opening. So I'm still learning it. It's definitely interesting.
I'm sure. Have you been doing farmers markets and other local plant sales kind of on the side in between all along? How's that been?
So I started at the Stowe Community Farmers Market. That was the first gig I ever did. And
Okay.
that started in June of 2020.
Okay. So that was kind of a transition.
Yeah. I did that every week, and I did the Garrettsville Farmers Market every week all summer, and I worked full time as well. So Saturdays were pretty much always getting up at 6:30 to go to the farmers market and then working until midnight or 1 o'clock. So it's been pretty.
That's rough. A long day.
Yeah. And that's what Saturdays were up until this year too. Yeah. So
that's really incredible. Cause I mean, whether or not, married with kids or whatever, I mean, that's quite the commitment.
I have no idea. People no idea how people are married or have children. I can barely take care of myself and people. And yeah, I have no idea how people do it. I give props to everybody who has kids or other people to take care of because I struggle.
Appreciate your honesty. We all do. We all do. It's not just you, Leah.
No, admitting that it's hard is, I think, a step to healing our nation. We're a nation that's put on a pedestal of perfect and corporate perfect, and that's not what real life is. It's imaginary. It's not attainable. So it's putting people up to expectations that aren't even real.
That's true. That's true. I always find myself like repeating the mantra of manage your expectations. And I heard that years ago from a friend, and I keep coming back to that myself all the time because it's so easy to be like, get almost like dreaming a little or have a story in our heads of everything will be perfect. And, it's not just a bestseller, it's the bestseller of all time kind of thing, or amazing sales and you sell out. And it's like managing our expectations is kind of a constant process.
Yeah. If you always, you need to have goals, obviously, but if you constantly expect perfection all of the time, you'll constantly be let down. So if you accept being human and accept that you can take a day to yourself. Exactly.
Yeah. Now, on that topic, I know that energy management is something that you're pretty passionate about as well. Like when you need a break, you always you'll be like, okay, I'm taking a few days off. And I think that's the one thing it is worth mentioning for, if somebody's out there and they're like, I want to go start a business, I want to do that too. It's not full throttle. You weren't like, working a ton of hours all the time.
Yes. The business requires a lot of work, and pretty much every day when I leave, still things need done. But I have to realize that it'll always be like that. There will always be something for me to do, especially as long as it's clean when I leave here. Like, that's my main goal.
Nice.
So I don't come into a mess. And taking time off really helps you be creative and be your true self. So I was getting to the point where I was getting burnt out after working tirelessly for a year and a half. And even though I had just opened the doors to my business, I had been working for this for so long. So I had needed a month to just reset myself and take care of myself. And even though I was still working 4 or 5 days a week and more than 40 hours, probably, I was doing that in a short period of time so I could take a couple breaks.
That's great. That's great. And I love your kind of bookending your day by having the clean shop. That sets you up for the next day.
Yeah, I had to make myself start to do that because I was coming into chaos and I was just starting the day crazy.
That's a great point. Even that little tiny adjustment.
Yes.
Coming into chaos, of course, how are we going to feel when we come into that? It's like you're already on edge. You're already a little irritable.
Yeah.
How do you handle anything if you're already kind of a little bit, tensed up and frustrated?
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Now, one thing I wanted to mention, I know you do some painting as well. How did you get into painting? I know you're looking around. You're like, I have paintings somewhere. If you want to go grab one, that's fine. Or if you don't, that's
right behind you.
She has one right behind you. All right. Nice.
So this one's going to be a skull cactus.
Yep.
It's evolving. There's many layers to acrylic. Sometimes it takes me like weeks to finish an acrylic painting. So it's very disheartening when I'm selling them because the time that I put into them, I don't feel that I'm good enough to sell them at Picasso prices. Picasso's
not too many people can have Picasso prices.
Yeah, but sometimes I'm using the money I make from it to invest in more art and more time. Ooh. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
To make money in the shop where it's almost like a relaxation to me too. It makes me feel a lot better. So I know when you've come some days with the kids to see the shop that I've been sitting down painting. Like relaxing.
I always caught that vibe from you. It's like it's a soothing change of pace, but it's almost always a plant. Yeah. It's like imagine that. And it's like a way to recharge even when you're at work. And I've always enjoyed that. And now I know you even do some like little clay plants that you create. And have you always been so artsy?
Yeah, my grandfather has little clay things that I made him when I was really young, still sitting on the shelf in his bedroom. It's a little pig. I think I learned how to make them in art class.
Okay.
And like you twist the little ears and like make a little snout, and there's a caterpillar too, and he literally still has them. And one day 2020 brought out art in me because I was laid off twice, and I literally had nothing to do at all, and I was getting paid unemployment. It was wonderful. I started the business with it, so I did exactly what I felt like I was supposed to be. But a lot of days I wasn't allowed to go anywhere. It was in very early in the beginning, obviously, when nobody was supposed to go anywhere.
Yeah, it was lockdown, sure.
So I've always been artsy and always had craft supplies and stuff like that, but it's not very, and made gifts for people, but it's not very fun when you don't get much return out of it. You know what I mean? And I never made things that I thought that people would want to buy until people started telling me they liked my art, and I started making plant-oriented art. So now I'll just make little things and put them around the shop, and I won't even tell people they're mine a lot of the time. Like there's a little signature in the bottom, but people are like, I love these, and I'm like, thank you, I make them.
So good. Yeah, because it's worth mentioning, you have a lot more than just plants at your shop. You have, planty art, you have a lot of different things. I mean, every time I go in there, it's always like, hey, there's some new plant or plant t-shirts or about earth, or it's not like it's just one thing. You have jewelry, and it's a unique mix of things. It's not just, hey, here's my plant store.
Yeah, we're up to 14 local artisan vendors other than just my plants. And we have clothing that's locally sourced and locally made. It's Origin Evolve, which is a company that donates 10% of its profits to foundations in need, including To Write Love on Our Arms.
Oh, nice.
Which helps with mental health care and drug harm.
Yeah, it's a great organization there.
He just recently paired, I believe, with the National Park System as a donation center. So I will have to check on those details, but maybe we'll even link his stuff too, or maybe the other vendors so everybody can check them out.
Yeah, that's great.
We have a local clothing or candle company that's made in Hudson. It's soy wax candles that are sustainably sourced as well. The glass is recycled glass, and it's safe burning scents and waxes for the home. We have 3 local ceramicists out of Stowe, Homerville, and Hudson. We have a local jewelry company that sources wood locally and fallen trees to make it. We have an acrylic resin artist. We have a multi-mix media artist that does all sorts of things. So yeah,
that's really cool. It's like your own little ecosystem.
Exactly. Yeah, we have
crafted there.
It's not just a home and garden store. Like I said, I'm really trying to figure out what exactly to brand us as and put on our sign to let everybody know exactly what we are, because it's hard to pinpoint exactly. Vendor hub, I don't know. You're gonna have to help me.
See, that sounds almost like flea market, but it's not a flea market. There are no sharp butterfly knives for sale. No used VHS tape. It's not random. It's very intentional.
Correct. And when vendors are asking me what would you like to see in here, I say plant oriented, earth oriented, or community oriented. And the contract that I have our vendor sign on consignment actually talks about sharing each other's posts and helping each other else out, not with expectations of things every day, but just some sort of commitment to all the other vendors and who's helping each other. And there's been relationships that my other vendors have created, and they talk more than I talk to them sometimes, or they share their stuff that I haven't seen yet. So I get really excited. It makes me happy that I've built this community, and I'm excited to grow more. I told you that I'm transforming the back area into more retail space, right?
No, you didn't tell me that. That's exciting. Very cool.
Yeah, so I have a pop-up shop that's coming down in Wellington. That's been going on for over 6 months. My family owns that. And the shelving and all the plants and all the stuff from there are all going to come here, and it's going to open up a lot more areas for more vendors. So
very cool. Very cool. It's really bringing community together. And I love that concept where it's not just about one person.
Yeah,
It's
for
it's
sure.
about the community coming together. It really becomes easier for people to win when you unite together versus it's just one person.
Yes.
Very, very cool. So I know you really love talking about plants. You love interacting with people with your customer service space. I have to ask the one question that I would ask you if we were just sitting together here. All right, what is the one part of owning a business that you never ever thought you would have that you're just kind of like, I really need to work more on this? Like the one part, because I think most people are always surprised. They're like, yeah, I need to get better at time management or whatever. And it's just like, you're not aware of it until you open the doors. And then you're like, ooh, how about them apples?
I guess it was the fact of really being alone and doing it
Mm.
all myself. And I don't want to sound conceited because it's what it's going to come off as, but working for other people my entire life and working with my peers my entire life,
Mhm.
I was always promoted fast and worked a lot
Mm.
harder than people and worked circles around people and always felt that I was doing double or triple a lot of people and
Mhm.
felt like I was doing it all myself, if
Sure.
that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Absolutely.
Reality, there's 30 people who work at a restaurant, even a small restaurant. So even when you're not there, there's things getting done. So like if I make a mess on the floor and I don't clean it up, it's going to be here tomorrow, obviously. And
Right.
I'm the one who has to do the taxes, the payroll, the scheduling, if there's any. So scheduling any events, doing all the social media, which is really weirdly exhausting. I'm sure you understand too. Like it's a solace and it's exhausting at the same time. So
Yes.
um,
Yes.
it's a way to
No,
be.
that's a great point. That's a really wonderful point. I'm so glad you brought that up because wearing lots of hats, it can be hard to transition. Like, okay, I'm in, accountant tax mode. I'm doing bookkeeping.
Yeah.
Oh wait, I can't do that when the store is open.
Yeah.
As a customer comes in, or if you attempt to, and you're like, "Ooh, I'm behind. I need to do this now." I can see that,
It's hard to
and
start anything during the day, actually, when the store is open. I realize that.
right, right. And I just had a conversation with a friend even this morning about this. He's like, I know someone who literally has multiple hats and has a label on each hat. And he'll put on the marketing hat or the accounting hat or the whatever hat. And I'm like, that's kind of brilliant actually, because then you're defining what you're doing. I know it's silly. I mean, if you were really quirky though, come on, Leah, admit it. You could have some plant hats and you'd be like,
I'm still trying to figure out exactly what I need to do to get better at managing my business and everything like that, because it's a struggle. I mean, doing this all yourself, I'm really proud. I'm glad other people are proud of me because it really fuels me to keep going. To be
we
honest,
all need that. No, I agree, and I that's why I'm kind of always in the background applauding you and telling you you're crushing it.
all for that.
I get it, because it's like without those other people, I mean, we don't necessarily see the glass as half full. We'll be like, oh no, it's half empty. Oh no.
Yeah, a lot of people don't see the back end of it and see the mess in the back room and the days that I'm here until 2:30 in the morning and leaving for a show at 8 a.m. So it's rough. And I think the thing that's rough about it is that not the actual doing it, is that in knowing it won't get easier for a couple years. That's
yeah. I get you on that.
Everybody's like, it's gonna get easier. I'm like, it's been like 6 months. I'm so tired.
I think the great thing is though, a lot of the work can be recharging. And there's a good tired and then there's the bad tired.
Yes.
The good tired is like, hey, I was doing what I meant to do and I'm just spent.
Mm-hmm.
The bad tired is when you're like, oh, I did all this that I don't care about.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. So when I leave here at 2:30 in the morning smiling because I just got to play with plants for 6 hours and paint and do all these other things, yeah, I'm excited.
I should say though, throw in the disclaimer, you are a night owl. So 2:30, if to a night owl, is not as extreme as it might sound to someone who's like an early bird. Right?
Okay, I'm up at 7 and 8 too. it's not a balance. I don't go to bed at 2:30 all the time. It's usually around midnight.
See, that's much better than 2:30. So, now you mentioned social media, and I want to talk about this for a minute because I think this is the struggle. It feels like work. It is work.
Yes.
It is required.
Yes.
And it can be very draining.
Yes.
You do a wonderful job of like showcasing the things in your store, the events you're doing, all the different venues that you go to, like the farmers market or the Halloween festival. You're showcasing all these events. And I think that's really cool because it still does take time. Absolutely. I did a Instagram video earlier today and I'm just like, hey, here's what I'm learning, blah, blah, blah. And it was me talking. And I'm like, I'd much rather just do one thing about that from me than like, hey, buy my book. Here's a picture. Here's a picture. Like, I get tired of just talking about books.
Everybody's comfortable with their own things. Like, you're really comfortable with video, and that's something that I'm trying to get better at. Like, I'm really glad that I can't hear myself talking because I'd probably be a lot more shy.
It's funny. I think it's only because of all of these different calls I've done is why I'm comfortable with video.
Okay.
And that was the key turning point for me. It was like, and the very first time I did this show, it was like live stream. I'm like, oh no, I'm going to say something obscene and terrible and everyone will hate me. That was my first fear. And I haven't said anything too incredibly stupid. I mean, I'm sure it's going to happen, but then again, if it's live, you get hopefully a little leeway. But you start slow and you dabble and you experiment. And I think that's the secret there with video and even like podcasting and all that. It's like, just start slow. Like you said, you can't aim for perfection because you're not gonna, no one gets perfection out of the gate.
Yeah.
And
perfection, it's teams of people working together.
Yeah. And who knows how much work behind the scenes, right? With how many rounds and editing and all these things. But it's just it's so refreshing though to just kind of experiment and play around with things. And I'm sure you can embrace video any moment. When you feel extra rush from the energy drink, you'll be like, okay, I'm gonna do it.
Well, I was thinking about making one about the soil company that I provide at the store. And the last time I tried to make one a while ago and I just like recorded a bunch of videos and I was like, nope, I hate it. I'm just gonna
send it to me and I'll give you feedback because I've done so many with courses and other people. I'm like, I'll tell you. And most people are just so, I mean, thankfully the bar for social is very different than like the bar for a official course kind of thing.
Yeah.
Remember, Instagram stories, they go away. That's the thing I like. It's like they go away in 24 hours. So
only a few people.
Yeah, I mean, it won't stick around forever. Maybe that's the comforting part for me because that's where I usually do post videos.
I'm gonna work on it.
Great. See, that's encouraging there too. We all have to keep experimenting and trying new things. And that's one thing I've seen you do a bit, Leah, because you've always like different events, different offerings, different services. And you're like, you said earlier, you get bored pretty quick and you're like, I like to mix it up. Have you always been that way?
Yeah. I'm only 27, so I'm still like figuring out my adult self and the patterns that I've seen. Yes, I get bored quickly with work. If there's nothing new for me to learn, I have to move on or go find somewhere else where I can learn. And it's how I learned so much about business and running a business. But yeah, with plants, like I have to keep creating new plants, new art, doing new things, offering new services, doing new classes. One, I mean, essentially to make money and promote myself, but two, because it might be ADD. I don't know. Maybe we should get diagnosed. But yeah, I just have to constantly keep going.
What's been your favorite story of your shop since you've been open? Do you have anything that comes to mind? Like it doesn't have to be like super fancy, but like just even an encounter with the story as you've been open at your physical location now for over 3 months. Anything come to mind? You're smiling. Oh, I got lots of stories.
I'm trying to find something good that comes to mind because this is just a funny story. And I told you that this happened probably almost immediately after it happened.
You did.
But I don't even know if I probably shouldn't even say this out loud because it's possible that somebody could see it. No, a little girl peed on my floor, and it was heart-wrenching to the mother, and I felt so bad, and she was so nice, but I was just like absolutely amazed that could happen right in front of me, just like right in front of me.
I remember when that happened, I was laughing. I was like, oh, that's nothing. It was my reply.
It really didn't get on the floor at all. It really got mostly on the mom, and she was just mortified. I felt so bad. She's like, we'll be back. And I'm like, please come back.
Please come back. Please come back. I'll have a sucker for the little one. Candy. I think every parent is going to have all those encounters. It's inevitable.
Yeah, it could have been like vomit or something.
Oh yeah.
Worse.
You got off easy.
I really did.
Now, I know you've met some cool people too through the store as you've been open. You had like the mayor from the couple of towns here nearby. You had the Chamber of Commerce. Everyone come to your launch.
Yeah.
It's been quite the experience for you over the last 3 months, hasn't it?
Yeah.
What jumps out from that so far?
Having both of the mayors here from the neighboring towns was really awesome. There's a picture of them like shaking hands and like posing together, and I absolutely like right in the front of the store. So I absolutely love that picture. It's just the leaders of our community, and it's exactly what I'm trying to promote as like a sense of community and togetherness. So the Chamber of Commerce in the Falls, all of those people have been so wonderful. Scott Mitchell owns a local insurance agency, and Camelia Fisher is the CEO of the Chamber of Commerce. Both of them are just absolutely wonderful and helped me get into events that I wouldn't normally go to, like a golf outing for the Chamber where I met a lot of people. So, yeah.
How do you, when you said that, I had to chuckle because in the back of my mind, I'm like, as an introvert, how do you go to all these events?
I'm an extroverted introvert. I like.
Okay.
I need people to conversate with and to talk to and to thrive off of and be creative with.
Mm-hmm.
But when I go home at night, like I crave solitude and quiet. Like it's like a buzz in your head. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. I read this thing in time about frequencies of a city and how motors and all the electronics that we use and pretty much anything that we use literally puts off a frequency or a vibration. Mm-hmm. So everybody just needs to like decompress.
Yeah, that makes sense, especially with like during the day versus at night.
Yes. And I am not a person to believe in, what are they even called? Like astrological signs. Okay.
Yeah.
I am not like that. I wasn't until recently. Somebody else explained witchcraft to me in a different way that made sense, to more of a sciencey way. But here's this. I read it today. That everybody you can see the moon affecting the tides.
Yes.
And the moon affects water in a very distinct way.
Yes.
But nobody will admit that the moon affects us and we're 70% water.
That's a great point. Might even come into play with the, the full moon effect.
Yeah.
Right?
Yesterday, it was crazy.
Yeah. Well, I think what we're really creeping into here is self-awareness. And I think that is a superpower because most people are not very self-aware. How do you stay self-aware? How do you stay that way?
I'm mostly self-aware in how I affect other people.
Okay.
I'm very in tune with other people's emotions, and I can read people's emotions, like on their face or their body language.
Even with a mask on?
Yeah. Did you know how to smile with your eyes? Did you learn?
That's true. You can tell. You can tell that much. For sure.
Yeah, and if people are angry and upset, if it makes me angry and upset. So I try to just surround myself with like-minded individuals, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
A lot of the
Absolutely.
time I even think I affect people when I don't. I think that comes from an anxiety standpoint. Do you understand that at all?
I do. I think sometimes we like as a writer, it's like if I wasn't a writer, I'd just do something else, but I can spin those stories in my mind.
Okay, yeah, exactly. So it's I've
I
read
can
your
spin it. I can
so
get them spinning like, oh, well, this happened, then that happened. And it's almost like a chain reaction.
no, for sure. Yeah, so you make up like these silly scenarios that
Oh my gosh. Oh yeah.
you're like, none of this has even happened. Why am I
Oh,
doing
Leah was mad at me because of this, and I did this, and it must have been something else here. I can, I
In
can.
reality, she just hasn't gone to sleep since 2
In reality, she ran out of energy drinks, and she was just barely awake. And I think that part of it is like, don't make assumptions, or if you are making an assumption, like hold it very gently.
Have you ever
Hold it with
you
open hands.
the don't make an ass out of you and me, right?
Yeah, that one.
Teacher.
Don't assume, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so exactly. Okay, so assume is don't make an ass out of you and me. And every time that I assume something, I have to actually think about that. One of my high school teachers taught me that. And he said it out loud to me, and I'm pretty sure he made me write it down because it just went over my head. Of course it did.
It's okay. That happened to a lot of us in high school. A lot of things went right over our heads. No judgment.
Yeah, so I have to like reassure myself and make sure none of this has happened. You can keep going on with your business and your life. You don't have to worry about all these things. That's a lot of things that I worry about, things that never happened.
Yes. I think we all do. I think it's whether or not we verbalize it or admit it.
Yes.
The those million scenarios that were worst case scenarios that we'll picture. And I think that it's often like if we just admit we're uncertain, admit we're afraid, admit we're anxious, whatever, just saying that like takes so much power from it. Then you can like go do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
Maybe it's going to an event you've never done before. Maybe it's talking to someone and you're like, no, I don't talk to anyone. I'm quiet. It doesn't really matter what it is, but just putting yourself out there if you're uncertain and just kind of admitting it. I think that's the secret. Cause like, I love helping people write books, but most people want to write a book, but they won't like admit it out loud.
I understand that.
It's kind of a brave, courageous act to be like, I'm going to write a book. And then, of course, the next thing, do I have something to talk about? Why would they read it? That becomes the next.
Yeah, for sure.
Fill in.
It's like when people come to me and they're like, I love plants, but I don't know how to take care of them. And I'm like, okay,
yes.
Do you have any right now? Okay. What does your house look like? Do you have light in there at all? Do you kill your plants because you don't water them, or do you water them too much?
Right.
So yeah, thriving off the relationships with plants definitely has been a wonderful thing for me to be self-aware and to be happier, essentially, because plants make me happy and I get to do that every day.
It's like each one brightens you up a little more, and then you're like, I get lots and lots, so I'm even better.
I'm happy when other people get happy about plants. I think that's most joy that I get out of it.
Passing it, spreading it.
Yeah. Do you get that when people like your books? Like, is that the joy that you feel, or your work, or see your work?
Yes, but even more so when I help them make their own.
Okay.
And that way they're sharing their own story.
I see.
So my friend Tammy Helfrich, who wrote the book Unapologetic, I do not know what episode, but I interviewed her. It's probably like episode 9 or 8. Helping her in the background with her book was really awesome because so many men and women apologize all the time for everything. And to see her put her book out there and saying, you don't have to apologize. Stop doing that was huge for me. And then that's part of what helped me write my own book too. So it was almost like a kind of a pay it forward thing where I could see real change from it.
Yeah. I have a few mentors over my career in restaurants that really stuck with me, and one of them being a general manager at Chipotle I had named Steve, who I still talk to this day, and he even reached out recently and told me how proud of me he was. And
Awesome.
When I grew up in Elyria. Did you know that?
I did not know that. That's closer to Cleveland.
Yeah, it's about an hour northwest of here in Lorain County. So an hour northwest of Kiowa Falls. And
see, only you and I know this, because most people, I always say near Akron, nobody knows Cuyahoga Falls.
Right?
It's hard to pronounce. It's like Akron.
When we were at that event over the weekend in Cleveland, so that was in Lakewood, somebody was like, "Oh, I know that. I go to Solon all the time." And I was thinking to myself, that is nowhere near Solon.
Anything north becomes Cleveland by default.
It's like they must have saw an exit or something on the highway that says Cuyahoga Falls, and they were just like, "Oh, yep, right there. That's where it is."
Saw it on the sign. That's it.
Yeah, but I grew up in Elyria and worked for Chipotle when I was 19 years old.
Okay.
And one of the general manager, Steve, he believed in me a lot and saw my potential and guided me through the process of management, and got me in a position where where Chipotle essentially paid me to move down to Akron and open restaurants. I was 19 years old. So
I mean, you're like high school senior age. So yeah,
it was the year after I graduated. So it was, my parents were terrified. All the plans that we had set in place, I just decided not to go through with and moved to Akron by myself. They were terrified. I was terrified. And yeah.
But that sometimes is part of the story when you're, we can't plan some parts. We have to.
No. And the weird thing is that I'm a half mile away from where the shop is now. I drove by this building every single day.
Really? I think I know which one you're talking about now.
Yeah. So if anybody knows Akron at all, knows the infamous Timbertop, that's where everybody goes to live when they first move out of their mom and dad's house.
That's true. And even the Cleveland Cavaliers lived there back in the 80s. I know this for a fact. Verbatim, it's the truth. Yeah, they did. Back when it was newer.
Okay.
All the Cavaliers would live there. And back when the Cavs didn't play in Cleveland, as they played at the Richfield Coliseum, which makes sense logistically,
yeah, for sure,
where they were at.
That's cool.
And some of them would even play basketball really close to my house at the basketball courts right there. And I was like, really? Are you kidding? And they're like, oh, no, not kidding at all. And then I saw some of the Cavaliers tweeting about Timbertop. And I said, okay, this is definitely real, because you don't make that up.
That's awesome. I love this area. I'm right on the border of Akron and Cuyahoga Falls here. So I actually have a Cuyahoga Falls address, but literally, if you go 100 feet, I'm pretty sure it's Akron. I fell in love with the national park here. I fell in love with Cuyahoga Falls and what they did for the entire community. So the Chipotle that I opened is the one in Portage Crossings, the brand new, when they developed the downtown area. And even through the pandemic last year and the last year and a half, can you believe it's almost been 2 years? Okay, I just had to say that.
I can actually, yeah.
It's insane to my brain. I was so proud of what Cuyahoga Falls did for development in the past year and a half, and I am so proud to be a part of this community. So
I love it. And it shows you're connecting so many businesses together. And I love that. It shows your spirit of generosity too, because a lot of people kind of point their fingers and say, look at me, but you're kind of like, no, look all around me, which I think is so cool.
Yeah. None of this would be possible without a lot of the vendors that are in my store. A lot of them have a hand in putting together a piece of furniture, moving 4,000 plants to this place from my house, covering a few hours here so that I can go do an event elsewhere. And yeah, I every little piece of shelf has something made by somebody else, and that's not me. That's work that took away from what I had to do, which is wonderful. That's exactly why they're here. And I love that, to be able to promote them and their beautiful artwork, where a lot of these vendors wouldn't have an area to showcase it in the first place. So
I love it. I love it. Now, how can someone get in touch with you, Leah?
anybody can get in touch with me via Instagram or Facebook. It's at Lele Leaf and Vine for both of those. There is no S, so it's Lele Leaf and Vine. There's direct messenger on both of those that I replied to literally within a few hours most of the time. I have since deleted Instagram and Facebook off my homepage and turned off the notifications. So sometimes it's a few hours in between, where a lot of the time where it was instantaneous before.
Yeah.
This is how I'm managing my
Yes, yes, that's good.
People can come directly to the store Wednesday through Sunday. Hours are on Google, and if I have an event, I do update them. Facebook as well. So, and the phone number is on Google as well. I answer text messages and phone calls to that.
Yeah.
I really like face-to-face conversations, though, so that's where I shine the best, where we can be the most creative.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing with everyone, and I hope that many of the folks in the Akron area can come visit you and support you as well.
Awesome. Me too. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.